individuals and groups have been hard at work evaluating and planning and monitoring how to guide Dickinson through these most turbulent economic times. But now, the questions you are probably waiting to have answered with some concrete information. This is the part we now turn into. Over the next 4 years, we must account for a budget shortfall that approaches, as you heard, $5 million. That we know. Where do we go from here? What does all this mean for you? How can you help the college meet the current challenge? Let's start with some of the day-to-day ways that we can and must permanently change our behavior if we are to weather this crisis. Tim has already spoken about a few of these. Also, Vicki and Tim have talked about the difficulties P&B is having developing a budget for FY 2010, and we'll return to those momentarily, that struggle, that discussion. They also remind us how important it is for each of us to tighten our belts and define countless ways in our daily routines to stretch existing resources. Senior officers and I have already implemented changes in current practices and procedures to help us contain costs. Some of these include postponing some science equipment purchases, eliminating hard copy publications of the student handbook, the Vitality newsletter, and the leadership directory, which has moved to online dissemination. Reviewing and eliminating all duplicate office subscriptions to journals such as the Chronicle of Higher Education and other trade publications. By the way, all of this is just good management. This has given us a chance to see where we were a bit excessive. Reviewing the benefit of all professional association memberships, some of which can cost thousands of dollars. Asking senior officers to review and scale back those occasions when lunches or refreshments are offered at on-campus meetings, but they're really not necessary. We just came from a meal. And asking senior officers to review conference attendance to see if it is feasible to take advantage of technology such as webinars, teleconferences, and video conferences, allow participation while reducing travel costs. I've also asked senior officers to create specific task force to evaluate the use of fleet vehicles, how stipends and overtime are awarded, and the use of facilities to coordinate campus events to reduce setup costs, to explore designating specific after-hour classrooms for study purposes rather than to have the lights on and the energy going everywhere on campus at once, and sometimes with only one student in the room. All of us also need to renew our commitment to exercise prudence and good judgment in terms of energy consumption. 3 years ago, at this very same annual town meeting, we introduced the Green Devil and introduced a challenge to see which buildings could reduce energy consumption the most. Over the following semester, on-campus energy was reduced by 20%. That was after that town meeting. Unfortunately, we have not sustained that level. Over time, our energy consumption has crept up again. Last fall, I issued a challenge to the campus in my convocation address to reduce our energy consumption by 10% more, a charge that proved to be prophetic given ensuing economic developments. While we made some progress during the fall semester, we absolutely must renew our commitment to contain energy costs and make it a permanent rather than temporary change in our daily behavior. And we've had good results, Ken tells me, from this break. So what can you do? Well, some very simple things. Tim said it. Please turn off the lights if you're the last person going out of the room. This adds up significantly. Evaluate office appliance use. Do you really need 3 mini refrigerators and 4 coffee makers on the same floor? Can't these amenities be shared? Unscrew light bulbs in areas that don't need substantial light and change regular plugs to incandescent ones. Just having them plugged in uses energy. Completely shut down your computers at night. Log off doesn't do it. Shut down. That function is important. Many of us have been simply logging off, but that again is not enough. We can save $30,000 a year if we all turn our computers completely off at the end of the day. Please be your neighbor's keeper. There's nothing wrong with reminding a friend or colleague, please just turn it off. Think of jobs. Think of jobs. This list of cost efficiency measures will undoubtedly grow in the upcoming months, and I encourage you to add your own ideas to the list. We all need to roll up our sleeves and exercise good common sense as we think about the use of college resources. As important as these changes in daily behavior are, they won't get us where we need to be. Let me be far more specific. Postponing science equipment purchases, moving to more online publications, achieving a 10% reduction in energy costs, and shutting down our computers each night will save less than $250,000 a year. But we need to put this in its broader perspective. Let's return to David's multi-year challenge slide. Again, we are facing a $5 million challenge by FY 2012. How are we going to rise to that challenge? The first thing to recognize is that $250,000 amount is not insignificant. That's important. That's a behavioral, that's a mentality issue, and we need to conquer those. But the first thing that we need to recognize, even in that, is that we cannot wait to 2012 to absorb this shortfall. We must begin immediately to trim our expenditures and at the same time continue to invest as appropriate in those areas that are revenue producers, such as development and admissions and some other amenities. This may be, and I'll repeat this, the hardest part to realize. We are not going cold turkey here. There are places where we need to conserve, and there are places where we need to invest. And that institution that just conserves and doesn't invest will be hurting as all of us come out of this period. Traditionally, the balanced budget that P&B has recommended to me and which I have approved is presented to the Board of Trustees at their January meeting. This year, I've asked P&B to extend their deliberations into the spring semester, which means we will delay presenting the budget to the board until their April meeting. At the same time, I've asked all senior officers to develop divisional budgets for the current fiscal year that include 5 and 10% cuts to services, supplies, and capital items. You will notice there is a category conspicuously missing. These cuts will not be across the board, but will vary depending upon departmental mission and institutional need. We will not wait until the next fiscal year, which begins July 1, to implement these cuts, but will begin immediate cost containment measures with the goal of ending the current fiscal year approximately 5% under budget. This is a very unusual approach. We intend to be under budget this year. The time to change our behavior, the time to tighten our belts is now. In order to retain our high credit bond rating, it is absolutely imperative that we finish this year not only with a balanced budget, but also with a surplus that we will use to begin to build a cushion for subsequent years of budgetary stress. Maintaining our A credit rating is directly linked to our ability to borrow funding at a reasonable price in our future. Credit agencies will realize that all institutions have incurred financial damage because of the steep decline in the stock market. But we know what they will be looking at most intently is how institutions manage the financial crisis. We must draw upon our inherent discipline and demonstrate that we can do this better than others. And we will emerge from this crisis a stronger and better institution. It is here that we will excel and build our future for all of us.